Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
Fantastic, man. I'm excited to finally get your big guest on the show.
Oh, yeah, my man, Curt.
You've been smiling for weeks waiting for this one, so I'm excited, man. I know you look up to him. He's a good mentor to you. He's obviously had massive success in business.
Yep.
And I hope he lives up to the hype for you, buddy.
He definitely has, man. I mean, I consider him a mentor of mine. I changed kind of my whole wholesale business strategy because of him. You know, I was really focused on getting this massive multi-state distributor, right? Trying to get these distributors. And I kind of told him everything that I was doing. And I remember him telling me over breakfast here in Fort Collins at Doug's Diner, he's like, you know, when I hear distribution, I hear lower margins. If I were you, I would make a fantastic sales process, get 6 people on the phones and take all that margin for you and have the distributors crawling, begging to distribute your brand. That's what I did with Otter. And, you know, he's obviously doing something right, $3.5 billion company.
Oh, man, OtterBox. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear his purpose and how he shares it with the world. And
yeah, me too.
And learn. You know, anytime you're around somebody that's had that much success, you can't help but learn and hope some of it rubs off on us.
Yeah, and he's super humble too. I'm excited to bring him on as well. What did you think of the Purposeful Practice for the Reaching Enlightenment episode?
I enjoyed the talk with you. I enjoyed just your perspective on enlightenment and the practices you've put into place. So I've started reading Stillness is the Key.
Yeah.
To implement that more in my daily life. And I guess maybe just taking more ownership of creating the space to where I can move more into that. Because I think one of my downfalls, to be honest, is that I try to be so productive and I try to accomplish so much that I forget that time's important.
Yeah.
So that's what I took away from it, is that I need it. It's not like good to have. It's not like, oh, okay, if I get to it, it'll be awesome. But like for me to truly be my best in our relationship, my family, just in everything I want, I need that stillness. I need the enlightenment side. Is really what I took from it. How about you?
Yeah, very similar, man. Continuing with my meditation practice. And actually, Stillness is the Key has been huge to kind of hear about some other people in history. Like I like Winston Churchill. I don't know if you've gotten to that part in the book yet, but Winston Churchill's practices, he takes like a 1 hour bath. That's some of his stillness. I like there's a chapter about time and nature, which 75 hard. Day 66, by the way.
Wow, dude,
I'm getting
it.
I'm getting it this time, finally. Spending time in nature, you know, with that, I've been spending at least 45 minutes a day, sometimes running without the headphones, you know, really experiencing that, and then meditation. But I love it, man. I think it's key because I've been the same way, to where like productivity, task list, complete. And you lose a sense of not only stillness because you're so enveloped in the noise, but also kind of lose a sense of humanity, right? Like when you're so focused on productivity, at least for me, I would literally look at like meetings as like, okay, what's the point of this? What's the purpose? As opposed to really being there in the experience.
I think it robs you of fulfillment. Think about it as if, at least for me, if I have all these things to do and I get them done, and even if they create the results I wanted, at the end of the day, I set up tomorrow to be the exact same. Like you don't have the joy and the fulfillment because you're running from process to process, from thing to thing. And I think that's what an area I definitely want to improve upon is just being able to enjoy the things we accomplish more, instead of always looking to, okay, I've gotten this, but now what's next? I've gotten that, what's next? I've accomplished this, what do I need to do next? And like you said, you know, enjoy the little interactions, enjoy nature, enjoy the quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what my man Curt thinks about all this.
What you're feeling?
I think he's going to be an advocate, at least from what I've heard from him in our recent conversations. I think he'll be an advocate of stillness and being one to try and reach enlightenment. Yeah.
Good. You ready to bring him on?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Good morning, On Purpose community, and welcome to another show of the On Purpose podcast. I am very excited to introduce a special guest today, an incredible businessman, and I have the privilege of calling him a mentor of mine, Mr. Curt Richardson, the founder of Otter Products. You might have one of his cases on your phone right now. He actually serves now as the Chief Visionary Officer for Otter Products, but is more focused on serving as a loving father, husband, and a brand new grandfather. So congratulations on that, Curt, and welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a whole nother time of life for us at the Richardson house with a new little grandbaby. So we're very excited.
Yes.
Little Gwyneth Richardson. So yeah, we are excited to welcome her into the world. She's all of, I think, 24 days old today.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Brand new.
Yeah, brand new.
Congratulations on that. How was the process with all the restrictions and stuff? Were you guys able to?
Yeah, well, we couldn't go to the hospital, so we didn't see her right away, and we were more concerned that Josh, our oldest, wouldn't be able to be there with Candace, during the birth. But they were down at McKee, and it went great. They had raving reviews about McKee and the whole process. So it went well, and they brought her home, and so we get to see her about 2 days later. So, wow. Yeah, we got a lot of FaceTime. Technology really helped out there. So
nice.
It was great. It was great.
Nice. Well, congratulations to you and the family.
Thank you.
That's a big step.
Yeah, a whole new world for us. It'll definitely cut down on our travel, I think. Grandma's going to want to be home.
Yeah.
Me too. So yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Ali has been excited for this episode for quite some time. So
we got our little pandemic get in the way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Happens.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully not too often.
I'm kind of over that.
Amen. Me too.
Yeah.
So, Curt, before we jump into some of the heavy, purposeful stuff, we like to let our community get to know our guests a little bit. Sure. So we do a little bit of warm-up questions. Okay. It's kind of like a workout with you. I don't want you to jump right into the big weight.
Fire away.
So the first one we want to know is if you're allowed to take one food with you for the rest of your life, what's Curt going to be eating?
Yeah, it wouldn't be healthy. So it would be brownies.
Oh, brownies.
All right. That's a first for the On Purpose podcast.
It'd have to be brownies. Brownies and maybe an apple.
All right, just to wash it down?
Yeah, that'd be my last meal is a brownie and an apple, and I'm done.
You throwing ice cream on the brownie or just straight brownie?
I'd go either way, a little vanilla, but Rocky Road would be my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
So we're there.
That's a often undervalued ice cream.
Rocky Road.
I agree.
I don't think new generation of they're too into the Oreo cookie and the sprinkles. Like Rocky Road is a good.
And Baskin Robbins used to have the best Rocky Road. Now it's kind of, I think since they've got bought out by Dunkin' Donuts, I don't think it's as good. I don't think it's as good as it used to be. But Bluebell's pretty darn good. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Bluebell, if you're listening, feel free to send us some Rocky Road.
Yeah. Gallons.
There you go.
There you go.
Definitely. All right. Brownie and apple.
Yeah.
Very cool. So second warm-up question, Curt, is if you could be any superhero, real or made up, could be Batman, could be Super Curt, with one superpower, who would you be and what would your power be?
Oh, Iron Man.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've got 2 new knees and a shoulder, so I'm almost there. I think for me, it would have to be just the ability to fly like Iron Man. Yeah. Fly, and then obviously I want to blow things up.
Yeah.
So, it'd be Iron Man.
Love it.
Yeah. And then the final one, Curt, what book are you currently reading?
I just finished, have you ever read 1 second after, 1 minute after? I think it's 1 day after. There's 3 books, and it's about an EMP going off in America, and just how this guy copes with the whole thing, and the leadership he's called into, because at one time he'd been in the service, and he's called back to that his town, and so it was pretty crazy books. books. It's 3 books. So I cannot remember who the artist is. And another one I've been reading, just started, was Steadfast by D.L. Talbot. So it's ironically, it's about a sales guy who a pandemic hits the United States. And the guy hides out in Wyoming, but it totally changes his life. Goes to a cabin in the woods, and all that's there is a Bible, and he reads the Bible and just totally changes his life. And then he's called to take care of all these people, and it's a crazy adventure. But that's been a really good book, and kind of hits home right now.
Yeah,
that's interesting about a pandemic. Do you know when it was published?
I think quite a while ago. Wasn't new. It's on Kindle, but it's called Steadfast, and a D.L. Talbot. I just came across it. I was going through. I think I put in a pandemic book, and that one came up, and I thought, Wyoming? Okay, I love Wyoming. Okay, there you go. I think I'll read it.
Interesting. So I have a theory. I think all this pandemic stuff, these zombie apocalypse shows, everything that we watch, I think as a collective, we might have maybe influenced the manifestation of this pandemic a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah. I tend to agree. I'm a little concerned where it's headed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how many people can find references to what we're going through in a movie they've watched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Like people come in and be like, hey, today felt like the Hunger Games, or it felt like this movie or that movie. And, right now, this whole tearing down all our statues and rewriting history, the one thing that keeps coming back to my mind is when you were watching, I don't know if you guys watched the series Flash or not.
No, I've never seen that.
But Flash's mom dies. Flash is a superhero.
Okay.
And he faces this internal dilemma. Should he go, because he's fast enough to go back in time. Does he go back in time and save his mom? And then it changes all the, what I mean? And so I'm really thinking, like, we're literally running back in time and we tear all this down. What does that sequence change in the future now if we forget our past?
Yeah.
Instead of learning from it.
Flash series, huh?
It wasn't, I mean, I watched part of it.
Is that your superhero?
I have a lot of superheroes. It depends what day of the week it is.
I love Marvel. I love Marvel. So I'm a Marvel addict. I'll agree.
Nice.
I'm totally confess that I am.
Iron Man's definitely up there for me too.
Yeah,
I love those.
Yeah, I was bummed he died in that last.
He did.
Yeah,
the Avengers.
The Avengers. Yeah, that series was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you feeling warmed up, Curt?
I'm
feeling
good. I'm
nice
good.
and limber.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, we like to start kind of with an all-encompassing question, and I know that it changes over time, but for now, for you, what is your purpose, and how did you discover it?
Sure. I think purpose is progressive revelation. I think for me, I really had to. That was a great question that my business coach asked me back when Otter was right here in Old Town, and I was going through E-Myth, the book E-Myth.
Yeah.
Big proponent of that book for business people, because I think it's the blocking and tackling of business. But I think it always starts with understanding who you are and what you want. For me, who I am, I desire that it be grounded in Jesus. My purpose is really what I discovered, that I really want to help people understand their gifts, who God's made them to be, and how then do they be who they want to be.
Sure.
And for me, that was a big discovery, and I really wrestled with it. And that was really at the core of Otter, even our headquarters, how it feels, how it looks, how do people feel in a culture? How do you develop a culture around that too? How do you develop a culture where people can really learn to be who they want to be? And one thing we do at Otter is after a year, we give them a life plan where they can really look at the turning points in their life, and really try to discover what they really want. Because I think a big problem today is people don't know what they really want, right? I mean, do you hear that in messages that people are asking today?
For sure.
I don't hear, though, this is what I really want. No, really, what do you really want? In a clear way that people can understand and communicate about. So for me, I really had to get clear with that I really want to develop a place and help people understand who God made them to be and what do they really want to do with their life. I mean, I don't know how many times I can tell you I've talked to guys my age, old, 60, 50, in their 50s, 60s, that go, well, I really didn't want to do that with my life. I didn't want to be an engineer. I wanted to be, I wanted to be a dentist. Who was the elf on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Yeah.
I don't want to be an elf. I want to be a dentist. Well, I think that's really the key, right? I mean, he didn't, to get to the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, he didn't want to be an elf. He wanted to be a dentist. And that's really, so many of us say that, but we're way down the road. We don't have a lot of years left. And I think the sooner we discover in our lives what we really want to do, or at least at 18, I mean, we're still a skull full of mush, us guys.
Yeah.
The girls are way ahead of us.
Yeah,
they got it figured out. But us guys, we're still a skull full of mush at 18. But if we can go, this is kind of where I want to go, even start to ask that question, I think we're way ahead. Because I didn't start asking that question of myself till I was in my early 40s.
Yeah.
And I really, if there's one thing I wish somebody would have challenged me with early on, was really ask me, what do you really want? Not stuff, not things. And I talked about this on, with Guy Raz on how I built this. Same thing is, I wish I'd have been asked that question, or more challenged with that question. What do I really want? And not in my head, but in my heart. Because it's totally different, We're talking two totally different. It's easy to go to your head and get materialistic and go, wow, I really want it to look like this. And no, how does it really change people's lives? How do you really make a difference? What does that mean to you, to each individual? And how do we affect and each other? I think if we all ask that question, we'd probably get along a lot better.
And I think that analogy of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is perfect, right? Because he's an elf, but he really wants to be a dentist. But when he tells everybody that, what happens? He gets ostracized. He gets sent to the island of misfit toys. Yeah. He's outcast. And I think that's where we drop the ball with our future generations is there's so much pressure to stay mainstream, to not really be who you want to be, but to be who people expect you to be. And I applaud you for creating a culture in a business where people are allowed to be who they want to be, not what they think you want them to be.
Well, I think as a country, we're seeing some of the ramifications of that, right? Oh, you have to go to college. Well, guess what? You don't.
Yep.
You don't to be successful. I mean, I know some electricians and plumbers that have retired at 50 has done very well for themselves, and they've loved what they've done because they've worked with their hands their whole life. And I'm not saying going to college is the wrong thing, but I'm saying that you should be, I think I'm a big believer in, especially guys, taking a year off after high school and working in different trades and different areas of businesses. Maybe every quarter you jump from, maybe you go to marketing, and then maybe you go to today's digital stuff. Maybe you go to some manufacturing, and maybe you go be a plumber. Maybe you go run some heavy equipment. See what you really like. At a young age, when we go into college, we don't have a dang clue. And for me, it's like expose yourself to different trades as well as different different things to do going forward with life. But don't just lock yourself into one thing because somebody tells you, oh, we think you should do this. Mm-hmm. Really start to ask yourself, well, what do I really want to do? What makes me tick inside? You know, and what's it about? We're never challenged with that. And no. I really think that if more young people were challenged with that early on, that they would live a more fulfilled life. I mean, the last thing you want to do is be taking your last breath and go, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
You know? I want to take my last breath and go, that was well lived. I'm ready to go on. Yeah. I'm ready to move on. So,
well, one thing I really like that you said is that progressive revelation, right? Because you may not want the same things in your 20s that you do in your 30s and your 40s.
You won't, because you haven't experienced it. You don't even know it exists.
Right.
Quite honestly, you shouldn't, because then you're not growing. Mm-hmm. If I want the same things at 48 that I did at 19, well, I missed a whole lot of learning in between.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you wrestle with the core person who you are early on, that may not change as much as you think.
Yep.
What you do around that
Absolutely.
may very well change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think trying to really dig in and go, what I really want in my heart, not my head. How do I really want to love my brother? How do I really want to be treated and treat others?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? What are my core beliefs? What am I grounded in?
Yes.
So how do we ask that and answer with our heart, Curt? Because I think that in the American blueprint of life, right? Graduate high school, go to college, get a career, buy a house, start a family kind of thing, to where we are asked that a lot, right? But we're limited in our options, right? You go to business school. Well, what do you want to be? Do you want to go accounting? Do you want to go finance? Do you want to go marketing? Right. What do you think are ways that we can truly ask ourselves in our heart what we want to do, as opposed to in our mind?
Well, first of all, I it's like business school. Again, that's head thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about heart thinking. Deeper stuff, really challenging yourself. How am I going to really make a difference? How at the end of my life are people going to, what's my eulogy going to be? How are my kids going to remember me? It didn't have to do with whether I was a mechanical engineer or a business executive or a banker or a plumber, or it doesn't mean anything. Really, what it means is, how do we relate to each other? How do we care for each other? I take it back to my core belief in Jesus, and I don't go into religion because that's man stuff. I go right to Jesus, the person. Yeah, I think if we look at him and go, what would, I always remember the bracelets, right? What Jesus have done, it's like, well, maybe we need to look at our bracelet a little more and say, what would Jesus have done,
Love that.
And where are your core beliefs? Are you, when you're trying to get in touch with that, maybe we need to just shut up and listen sometimes. Is ask ourselves, what am I here for?
Sure.
And really just listen. Take some time to be still.
Yeah.
Well, stillness has come up a couple different times. I just started reading a book actually this morning. Stillness is the Key. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
That my daughter actually recommended to me, because honestly, I've struggled during some of this time with just so much noise and the business pressure and the recovery building.
Yeah.
And, I think it's amazing how much stillness comes up now as an ability to separate from all the external things and really go internal.
Definitely.
To find the answers instead of watching for everybody else to bring them to you. And I think that's... Hopefully that's a skill that comes out of this, right? That's something positive that comes out on the backside, is us realizing how much power we have inside, that we don't need so much external.
Oh, it's huge. And there's a university study that shows that they took a group of college students and they put them in a room to where all they had was a button that could shock themselves. And they said, all you need to do is just sit here still for 10 minutes, don't do anything. This button will give you a little shock if you press it. And just sit there. And it was like overwhelming, like over 80% of them shocked themselves because they needed some sort of stimulus. Right? And we have 60,000 thoughts a day on average. So
it's hard to be still.
It's hard.
And there's so many things, so much noise coming at us, especially today when you go to like social media. I'm on no social media. And I want nothing to do. I'm actually thinking of getting rid of email.
Oh, wow.
I'm serious. I'm just like, you know what? Call me. And I'm about ready to go to a dial-up phone. If you could get one anymore, or just the old push-button phone, just because of the noise. I mean, literally, I looked this morning. I have 800 emails on my phone.
Jeez.
If I could just hit delete, I'd delete them all. It's like, well, if it's really important, they'll get back to me.
Yep.
And I think you kind of get there, because there was a time in my life where it was like, I got to answer that email now. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? Just go, go, go. And there's a time for that. But I think as you get older, you kind of go, you start asking yourself, what really matters?
Yeah.
And it's not getting back to that next email. It's not, I have to answer every one. I mean, and it's hard to not have that noise, but I think the pandemic made us sit still, right? It made it stay home. I mean, I think the whole thing's a crock, but that's a whole different subject. I'm not saying that people don't get sick and people don't die, but that happens with the flu as well, and bad colds. And if you look back at history, it's happened a lot. But I think it forced us to really stay home and maybe relate with each other. And in some homes, that's good. In some homes, that's not so good.
Yeah.
And I think we forgot that. There's a lot of unhealthy homes and unhealthy people, and the lasting ramifications of that, I think we've yet to see.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, Curt, that this pandemic did force a little bit of stillness, something that so many of us are scared of. But I think that you're correct in that stillness helps us hear our heart, really hear what it is that we want. And then through that, coming back to Jesus, whatever you believe, any universal power, God, Jesus, whoever it be, when we can clear our mind and clear our thoughts from all the noise, it leaves a little bit more space for those lightning bolt ideas from the collective, from God, from whatever you want to call it, because you're not email, next meeting, podcast, whatever it is. And I think that's necessary for us to grow as a collective. And the universe did it for us, right? It forced us into this quarantine to where it's like, hey, you're not practicing stillness. The world's going to make you a little bit still.
Yeah, but stillness still is because I found myself at home. Well, I haven't cleaned out my basement 5 years, right? So we're still working on that. But my garage is looking really good. But again, stillness is a decision. I'm going to be quiet. I'm gonna meditate. And I'll be the first to say I'm not very good at it. I mean, there's so much spinning up there. It's like I would love to just have a switch where I could just turn it off. But that is a skill. I mean, you think about monks, you think about people like that just really, they've made it an art. It's just a way to listen and be aware. And I think we're not. There's so much noise in our lives, especially with social media and news and how many channels do you have to choose from? And it's crazy.
Yeah, and even during the pandemic, I mean, what were you being told? If you chose stillness, you could be still. But if you were not, and you were just taking whatever comes in, right? You were encouraged to binge on your favorite Netflix show. All of a sudden now everybody has free streaming of this, right? They were occupying your time. So I think when we look back, it was an opportunity that we didn't take full advantage of for many people.
I agree, including myself. I would say I should have been more focused on reading, being still, communicating better with my wife. I mean, since we had we had a ton of time together, and our family. We didn't quarantine the whole family. I mean, Nancy's mom and dad are right here in town, and they're in their 80s, 90s, and we don't want them going out. Yeah. So we were basically bringing stuff to them and helping take care of them. And that, that's what we should have been doing. But again, just taking the time to read more, be still more, look more to the future, all of those things I think I personally missed some of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, Curt, you said it wasn't until you had reached your 40s to where you really started challenging yourself or being challenged to really look at your heart and ask yourself, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? Yeah. Was stillness a part of that journey, or how exactly did you get there?
Well, that last seat over there in Starbucks. I think my butt's still imprinted on that. We were in Old Town. We're at 19 Old Town Square. So, I mean, it's pretty cool to come here because it just feels like I'm going back into the past.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So, yeah, I had to really focus and really ask myself, what do I really want? And then how does that shape the future for Otter? Because it was in the context of business, but it's really deeper than that. I think the leader of a business, the leader of an organization has to come to grips with what does he really want or she really want before they can go, here's the vision for the business, for the company. Here's the core values for the company. This is how we're going to act. Here's our mission. At Otter, our mission is we grow to give. We grow, we make money so we can give it away. And that's a big part of what we do as a collective group of people at Otter. Now, does everybody agree with that? No, they don't. Does everybody think about that every day? No, they don't. But that is what we're about. We grow to give. So and sometimes we don't do as good as we should, but we're challenged to come back to that. We're challenged to say, this is what we want. This is who we are. This is how we're going to live and treat each other. This is our mission. This is the vision. This is how we're going to get there. Even painting a vision is, I didn't know how to do that. I mean, my brother was a big help with that, with the Patterson Foundation, but just because he'd gone through that exercise so many times with other executives. But it's like looking at where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. If you start to look at it in those 3 steps, it's a good way to start painting a vision for your business. But that has to be grounded in, what do I want? What do I want? Who am I? And that has to come from the heart, not the head.
Yeah, and I would think, and let me know if you agree on this or not, but for our community members that maybe don't have a business, that aren't executives, when I listen to that, you can apply that same principle to your life.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's where it starts. But that's where it has to start. It has to start with your heart, not based around a business. It has to be based around the person, the leader. Yep. When I look at businesses, you look at businesses that are successful and doing well. Why? Because there's a leader there. At Otter, we have an amazing leader, Jim Park. And we didn't always have an amazing leader there. I was there to start, and I'm not saying I was amazing, but I helped get it going, painted the picture. Other people have carried it on. One thing I always had on my computer was, if it won't run without you, you blew it.
Yeah.
Well, because I didn't want to always have to do the same thing. I'm the kind of person that I got to have variety in my life. Sure. If I do the same thing, I'm going to go crazy, And so for the individual, I think it's really important that the individual comes to grips with that. I'll go to colleges many times, and what I talk about is figure out what you really want, and get in touch with that, because the sooner you get in touch with that, the sooner you're able to go, okay, this is kind of where I want to go. I've been going to college for 4 years, so this sucks. This isn't what I want to do. And how many people you talk to go, I don't use anything I learned at college.
Yeah,
right.
All the time.
All the time. And not that you don't learn things there, and social interaction, and we grow as a human being. But would you grow as a human being in a regular job? Sure, you would. Because you're going to interact with other people. You're going to learn from your experiences. You're going to, not everything's at school. And that's where I go. I'm not sure it's school's business to teach us what we ought to believe. Yeah, I know it's not, but that's not what's happening.
Sure. Yeah, I like the idea of reverse engineering it, right? Like in your personal life, if you think about, okay, what do I hope is said at my eulogy?
Yeah.
And then think backwards, okay, so if that's what I want at my eulogy, what do I need to do today to make that possible?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you don't want him to say, he was a great CPA.
No. or maybe you do.
So what? Maybe you do.
Maybe you do.
Maybe you do. I mean, I guess I don't want to judge that either. If that's what somebody really wants, okay. Live your life that way. Yeah, but live it to its fullest.
Right.
to what you want. But back to progressive revelation, I think that I know that as we grow, we're learning all the time. We're getting clarity, right? So as we get clarity, things are always changing. You know, what is the most important thing that I should be working on now as I get more clarity? And when there's more disruptiveness, that wheel spins faster.
Yes.
You know, what was important before falls off the wheel and something more important, you know, like pandemic. How am I going to feed my family?
Yeah.
You know, okay, so that becomes a critical thing.
Right. Or a grandkid for you, right? You just a lot
how
less
to,
traveling,
right,
new priorities.
Right. Right. Your priorities change as life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But the core thing about who you really want probably shouldn't change that much as you get older. It's going to change more when you're younger, as you're discovering that, refining that. But always asking yourself that question.
And I like that because that's how you come back to decision making, right? If you know what it is you want, even in the most trying of times, your decision making is fairly stable because it's leading to the same direction, which I think is where a lot of people get themselves in trouble in life is they don't have a core decision making model. So if I'm in this certain crowd or it's a pandemic, I make decisions this way, and then when things settle down, I'm way over here, and I'm never consistently gaining traction. And then I get to my late 40s, and I look back and go, geez, how did I get here, and why? This isn't what I ever wanted. Well, look back, where did you make your decisions, and how did you end up here? Well, you were never consistent in that process.
But I think it's important to state what you want.
Yeah.
Be clear with what you want so that there's accountability. You know, and I think as we have other people, you know, iron sharpens iron, we need to be accountable to each other. To have a group, and I haven't always had that. Right now I have it more in my sons and my wife than anybody else because I've been around them more. But start holding each other accountable to, well, you say this, but you're not doing this.
Right. That's huge. That's
a huge deal. And I don't think as Americans we all want to be the Lone Ranger. I know I'm there, you know, and it's like, no, you don't do this well on your own. You need others. You need to be accountable to each other. You need to have relationship with others, and you need to have other men or women in your life that are there to hold you accountable. I think we all crave that.
We do.
But we don't always have that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I always love saying this is there's a reason why the absolute worst punishment for a human being is solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Because we are social animals. We are social creatures. We need others. Even the people that say, oh, I hate people or I'm an introvert. No, we need other people. And typically other people are going to be involved in what your purpose is, what you really want. Right? Nobody wants something just all for themselves. People want to reach wealth or certain levels of health and all these things to enjoy life with others. So I think that's huge. And I just thought of another study from a book called The One Thing. Really great book talking about narrowing your focus. And they talk about another university study that it's 30-something% more likely for you to achieve your goal if it's written down, right? Like you're saying, stating. And it almost doubles to 70-something% if it's written down and you share it with someone else to hold you accountable. Right. I think that's huge.
You know, and that goes with frustration as well with people. So when you have when you just have a day where, God, I can't get a hold of this. I'm frustrated as ever. I'm angry, and I go, why don't you write down everything you're thinking about, everything that's frustrating you and driving you crazy right now. And I would challenge anybody to do that, because when you write it down, it usually becomes really clear what's frustrating you, and it really becomes very clear that it's not that big a deal.
I love that.
And it's not that many things. But so many times we have that in our head. You know, I always tell people, well, when they go to figure out what they want, it's like, first write down what you don't want. Why? Because it's easier for people to come up with many times what they don't want. It eliminates a lot of things. So now you can focus, which focus is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
You know, focus with Otter at one time, we were all over the place. I was all over the place, okay? I mean, we're making PDA cases. We're making cigar cases. We're making iPod cases you can swim with. We're making tablet cases. We're making, Palm Pilot cases. Every freaking thing in the world, we're making a case for it. And finally, one of our past CEOs said, we need to make, if it doesn't fit in your pocket, we shouldn't make it. I'm like, spot on. And so we made that decision, and we sold the Cigar Caddy line. We got rid of other lines. We killed other lines, and we focused on, basically it was PDA of the day, the Palm Trio, then the BlackBerry, and then the iPhone, and it was all about focus. And even today at Otter, we're not, a lot of our competition went out and bought a bunch of people, and now they're going out of business, because they're all over the place. They're buying sewn products and all different kind of product lines, and they weren't focused. They weren't focused either on a market or on a product. And when you focus, you do things really well.
Yeah.
Even on certain parts of your business. For us, one of the key things for us is supply chain. I mean, it's huge. When we launch an iPhone, we're building, 300, 400 molds in 4 weeks.
Wow.
And we're making millions of parts to be on the shelf when stuff launches. So, I mean, that's a huge undertaking, and it takes a lot of focus. And every time something goes wrong, how do I correct that? It's that getting clarity, understanding, what's wrong, what's right, what's confused, and what's missing. And really writing all that down. I mean, if you ask ourselves, we have the 4 helpful lists, and those are 4 helpful lists. What's right, what's wrong, what's confused, and what's missing. And when you write that down on the wall, you start to get clarity of what's going on. Whether it's your life, your business, and I'll do that myself. I'll just make a 4 helpful list thing is what's going on here, and it gives me clarity and maybe what I need to then focus on.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's amazing how, like you were saying earlier, Jared, just how much good business practices translate to your life, because that is your primary business, right? How do you manage your life?
And actually, it should go the opposite way, right?
Right.
I mean, if we had our life in line, it makes business a whole lot better. Now, the two are one. You can't really separate the two when you're an entrepreneur, right? I mean, it's just the business is who you are, so you better get in touch with who you are and what you want before you build a company. Or a culture. Again, culture within a company is huge. Culture always trumps strategy.
Always.
You cannot execute a strategy without a great culture, which starts with a great vision and core values and mission. I mean, there's a reason you go through those steps, right? To really figure out who we are as a collective group, who we're going to be going into the future.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's funny you made note of that, Ali, because here's what I truly believe and what I've seen is that successful businesses are successful because they realize they're dealing in lives. So the very principles that make good lives make good businesses, because if you have a good business, you're making people's lives better. Your employees, your customers, the random people that find you.
Yeah.
And that's, I think we lose sight of that. We focus on data and statistics and analytics, and we got to stop and remember behind every number we're creating in a business is a person.
Yeah.
And their lives, and there's a kid and a husband or a wife and a mom and a dad. And that's what you're talking about, that culture and bringing them on like that. That's the whole person. And that's what I always stressed. Hiring police officers, you're hiring an entire family.
Right.
And when they're welcome and you bring them in, they're going to be your greatest employees.
Yeah.
If you make the mistake of thinking, I'm only hiring the one person that wants to do the job and the family's over here, well, this person will never be as good as they could have been.
Right.
Because they don't have support at home. Maybe there's turmoil at home because they're not part of the process. Right. So business is lives.
Yeah.
No matter what, if we're selling a tangible product, a personal service, coaching.
Yeah.
And it's lives.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the difference is between, many times you find a lot of businesses that are metric driven compared to purpose driven. And metric driven sets up so much conflicting things within the business. It's not, and people don't buy into metrics. They're not, I got to hit my numbers. Well, you hit your numbers at what cost?
Yep.
At the guy across the aisle from me? At my customer's expense? at the business's expense. We've had that happen at Otter. We've tried to be metric driven, and it's in total conflict with purpose driven. The two don't work. Not that metrics aren't bad. You need to have metrics. You need to have measurements within your business, but they need to be purpose driven. And so many times we forget the spiritual side of life, that it is bigger than us. And whether it's business and business is relationships, right? I mean, it's relationships with my customer, my end user, my distributor, whoever it is. Yep. It is all about relationships, and comes back to many times, how are we going to treat each other?
Yep. The simplest of things.
The simplest of things. And I think that's why Jesus didn't give us too many. We had the 10 commandments to start with. That was way too many. We just screwed that up. So he just buried it down to a couple things. Love your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and treat each other as you'd want to be treated. Right. Love each other as you'd want to be loved. Why? Because we're too stupid to be able to do any more than that. And even that we screw up.
So, Curt, I love the concept of we grow to give. That's an amazing North Star. And today, personally, I feel like with a lot of things happening in the world, that there's so many causes that we can potentially give to. We have COVID relief fund popped up. Now we have BLM. I mean, we have local food banks. We have. So for you, how do you guys strategize of where to give?
Yeah. Well, we've focused. So we have Otter Cares, and Otter Cares focuses on education and for youth. We feel that if we can help one mind, how many otters could you create out there? So we have innovation stations. We have curriculum out there for entrepreneurship and philanthropy, teaching. Again, if everybody was an entrepreneur, we'd have total freaking chaos, right? I mean, it'd just be a mess. So there's not a lot of us out there. So those that are out there, we need to really find and nurture and help them understand that it's important to create, but it's also important to give back. And so that's really Otter Care's mission. We have the Richardson Foundation, which is very kingdom focused for Jesus, and that's where we invest there. We have the Blue Ocean Foundation, which is more local and for business and startups, things like that, where we don't focus on that as much as we used to. We're more around local business and things like that with the Blue Ocean Foundation.
Love that. Yeah. We're always talking about how we can make an impact here in our local communities, because sometimes it's easy to get tied up in all the mainstream stuff that you're seeing.
That's just noise. I think as a business and as a person, you need to figure out, where am I going to focus? Yep. Where can I make the most difference? Because everybody's going to give and be involved. It isn't just about money. It's about time. It's about talents. It's about how can I help? How can I make a difference? Yeah. So again, asking yourselves those same questions. What is it really about for me? What do I really want? I mean, your giving, your time, your talent should be tied into that as well.
That's a recipe for a happy and fulfilling life.
That's at the end of the day, that's what we all really want, right? But we don't. So many times we don't ask ourselves that we don't give ourselves permission to ask, what do I really want? And again, I go back, it's not selfish, it's not materialistic. It's that, what do I want it to be like with my last breath? How do I want my kids to read about me at my funeral? That may sound morbid. Some people can't go there, but I would challenge you to go there.
I agree.
To go there. What do you want to be said about you? What really mattered?
Yeah. Yeah, how do you recommend that challenge for our listeners? Do you recommend, just sitting down, writing it out,
There's so much power in writing stuff down. And I mean, goals come out of that. You don't start with goals. Well, it's not about goals. I think you got to ask yourself the hard question, and I think you need to do it with somebody that's done it and show them your work, and then have them challenge you in, okay, well, I mean, that sounds pretty materialistic. Pretty, it what is that really what you want? Is that really what you want to be remembered for? And challenge them to really dig into it. My coach really did challenge me. My wife challenges me in those things. It's like, okay, what do you really, are you really living that out? You know, she doesn't always have to say it. I have to look at her. And, okay, yeah. You know that. I mean, we all know that, so, but I think it's important to have a brother or a sister that's on the same page as you with where you are spiritually to really challenge you in answering that question for you.
Yeah,
and that'll change over time, that person.
Of course.
But I think it's a good thing to be challenged in that.
Do you revisit that practice?
I do. I try to look at it and go, okay, am I living that? Is that the same? And for me, it is. I do. I get charged. I mean, this. I don't do a lot of podcasts, but I have done them, and I do them because my hope is that it challenges others from my life experiences, and maybe what's worked for me is that's not going to work for everybody, but I think it could. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good thing to ask yourself, what do I really want? I talk about that at colleges, high schools, at times when I'm asked to speak. I don't always, but when I do, that's my subject, because people may go, well, that's all you ever talk about. Well, nobody else is talking about it. Sure. So it's like, I think it's an important subject for people to live a fulfilled life as to who they're meant to be. I think it's about discovering who was I created to be and what is it all about.
Yeah. And I think when we don't ask that question of ourselves, the world misses out, right? Because you may have an amazing gift that changes those two lives down the hall. But because you never examine what you're supposed to be doing, what really fulfills you, you never tap into it. So you just stay over here. Mm-hmm. Well, you pass away, guess what? Nobody ever knew you had that gift.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody ever got to hear that story that could have been the one that changed my life, or hearing your story could have said, wait a second, I want to do that, but I think I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And even like Nancy started Otter Cares, and that was really a big part of the purpose, is how do you help kids discover maybe something they would have never discovered before? Mm-hmm. How do you help, both in giving back, but also, wow, I am an entrepreneur. I do, and we start with 5th grade, that curriculum, that age, we found that's a great age. Now they have curriculum that goes clear into high school, and that's free. We give that away to, where and a lot of teachers are using it, especially in Poudre Valley and other around the country now.
I was going to ask, how's that been received? Because I know
very
sometimes
very well. Yeah,
that could be a challenge.
And it's been morphed over time, but yeah, it's been received really well.
So I think that's one place we can definitely make an improvement, is getting our younger people to see more possibilities of who they can become and what they want to become. And not kind of like we talked about earlier, falling in line because everybody else is doing this.
Well, that's what Dad did. I need to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, as a parent, one of the things I'm adamant about, and I talk to other parents when I get to speak or they ask me, is you'll never hear me ask a kid, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. Right? I'd never ask them, what are you going to do? Because I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And what I've done over my life has changed, but I always want to know, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Right? Who do you want to be? Like, I always wanted to be somebody that others looked up to and that I made people better, right? And then when I left a room, they were like, oh, don't invite him back. That drained me. I knew I wanted to give.
Well, there you go. That's I'm hearing that's your core. That's who you are. That's what you want to do. I mean, but most people don't get in touch with that. They don't ask themselves those questions. They don't wrestle with it. I think you have to wrestle with it.
Mm-hmm.
To find true happiness, I think you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're kind of, even if you achieve a ton of tangible things, material things, how many super rich people with a ton of stuff are miserable?
Yeah.
Because it's not really what or who they are.
well, pretty soon your stuff runs your life.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we found during this pandemic.
Yeah.
For me, at least, is like, okay, I can go with a lot less stuff.
I bet the Goodwill made out really good.
Maybe. Maybe. But I need more people.
They probably came back to work and there's piles of stuff.
They're probably turning you away.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah.
But I think that's a good lesson, right? We have a lot of stuff, and all of a sudden now we're isolated. What do we miss? Well, I'm not missing Netflix. I'm not missing the stuff in the garage. No. I miss
my
friend.
Have
coffee. Yeah.
I miss my buddy. I miss the interaction. I heard more people say it's so cool to see people walking around Old Town.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so ready for a traffic jam.
Yeah.
That's something you don't hear.
You know, but it's relation. It's human people, and I think that's what just drives me nuts with these masks.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not seeing, there's somebody behind the
Hard.
mask.
Right, you can't even see a smile.
I can't see a smile. I have no way of telling what that person is. You know, you say hi to somebody in an aisle and they freak out and run the other way.
Right.
You know, because, well, he breathed. You know, it's just, Yeah. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, a whole different one. Well, I really appreciate the challenge, Curt. One thing that differentiates our podcast and actually Jared's book is that we have purposeful practice, and we do promote a challenge for each episode. So I think this will be fantastic for our listeners to really ask themselves and have an accountability partner to share that with, to really find out what their heart wants, who they want to be, what do they want to become. So I appreciate that and want to ask, where can our listeners find out? I know you're looking at even getting rid of email, but maybe more about Otter Cares, the foundations.
Well, on Otter's website, Otter Cares website, I did speak on how I built this on NPR with Guy Raz, so there's a little more communication about Otter and myself and my journey. So there's stuff there. But, yeah, I'd stay away from social media. I don't even want to go there. There's enough noise in my life to introduce that in is just a nightmare.
Yeah,
definitely. I think a lot of people reflect in that way. I think that's one business that may actually, in the long term, take a little bit of hit is how people use it and what time they choose to allot to it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because honestly, there's times where I'm in the same boat and I'm like, all right, I'm getting rid of all technology. I just want to go back to, you know, if the lights come on, I got to go home. That means it's time for dinner. You don't even remember those days.
We built a house about 5 years ago and it was a smart house. It's the dumbest freaking house. That stupid house. I mean, the lights don't go on, or lights go on in the middle of the night. It's like, why did that light go on? I turned it off an hour ago, you know, and it's just, we're building a house in Wyoming. I'm like, I told the contractor, I just want a switch. When I turn it on, it goes on. When I turn it off, it goes off. If I want to dim it, I pull the little thing down.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't want, nothing runs through a server. I'm done with servers running my house, you know, but it's hard to get away from because your HVAC, everything runs off a computer anymure.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the world goes.
It's kind of scary when you read that 1 second after. You'll go, wow, because it fries everything.
Right.
Nothing works. The whole grid's down. There's no electricity. There's nothing, and you go, whoa, okay.
Could be a good thing.
It might not be a bad thing, but it wasn't so pretty in that.
Well, thanks, Curt. I really appreciate you coming on. Are there any key things to think about aside from the exercise that you want to leave our listeners with before we close out?
No, I wouldn't want to give them anything else because what we've talked about is a big deal. Mm-hmm. You know, focus on one question. What do I really want? You know, combined with that, how do I want to be remembered? I mean, that's a way to get to what I really want. And again, I'm not talking material things. I'm talking about what I really want. How do I really want to be remembered? How does my life count? You know, what am I grounded in? You know, and you know, I struggle with it all the time. I haven't figured it out yet. I never will, and that's okay. But at least I'm headed towards.
You're on the path.
On a path.
Yeah, that progressive revelation.
Progressive
I love that
revelation.
term. I'm taking that, man. That's a great one.
I don't know where I got that a long time ago, but I've always said life is progressive revelation.
Yeah, as soon as he said that, I was like, ooh, I'm using that again. Yeah, progressive revelation.
Yeah. Good. Use it up.
Will do. Well, thank you so much for coming on the On Purpose podcast, Curt, and we look forward to sharing your story with our listeners.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, team, as we wrap up another episode of the On Purpose podcast, we are thankful for having you all on our journey. We want to announce new ways to include you and let you go deeper into our community. First off, we got the onpurposepodcast.com website where you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter, get inside tips, and see what's coming up in the upcoming months. As well as our new launch is our Patreon account. We have 5 tiers where you can decide at what level you want to contribute to the podcast and the community, help support us, continue to push us forward and grow. And it's as little as 50 cents an episode or $2 a month, all the way up to $50 a month, depending on where you want to be. Perks of this are sneak peek episodes. You get the episodes quicker. You get to contribute on episodes. You get monthly Q&As with Ali and I and special guests. And you get to be a building block for our community as we continue to grow worldwide. With the release of Shelly Davies' episode, we are now international. And we're excited for where the future leads us. So please fit in with us wherever you are comfortable. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We'll see you next week.